Welcome back to our short InDesign tutorial series. This video will deal with placing images and placing text. So let's remind ourselves what we're working on. It's the postcard I got in the mail for the AIA Wisconsin Convention. And in this video we're going to place their graphic, we're going to place the copy text, and then we're also going to insert kind of the big headline text here. Let's get started. InDesign uses a tool called the Frame tool as a way to bring different documents into the workspace. The Frame tool and the Rectangle tool are right next to each other. Don't get them confused. Here's the Frame tool. It's the rectangle with the X through it. If I click and I come over here and I click and drag, just any old size here for starters, I can see that I have a rectangle with an X through it. The Frame tool is wanting me to attach, or if you're familiar with AutoCAD, X-reference a file into that frame to be displayed. There are a number of ways to do this. The way I like to do it the best is to use Control+D. So I'll click Control+D, and it brings up a number of options here. Now you've got to know where your files are located. And in my case, I have the files located here in my InDesign tutorial folder. These are the same two files, the brain file and the convention copy file, that you can download from the in-class assignment that we started under the Portfolio Blackboard site. So the first thing I want to place is this image of the brain, the graphic art that is on the postcard. If I select this and I say open, it's going to put it in here, but it doesn't look exactly the way I want it. What I have to do is decide how big I want it, and then I have to do a few things to the frame and then the image itself to make this work. Let's deal with sizing this frame properly first. One of the ways that we can do this is by knowing how big we want the image to be. I went back and looked at the original art on the poster, and the size of this image wants to be about 2.5 inches wide. So if we make our frame 2.5 inches wide, that's going to be helpful to us later. So up here on the ribbon, as long as I have the frame selected, I can come up here and I can say the width, W, is 2.5 inches. If I hit return, it makes that frame the correct size. And you'll notice that if the link button is selected, it also changed the height. Another way to do this is I can grip at it by just pulling by first selecting with the selection tool and hovering over a grip and clicking and dragging that frame down. I'm just going to drag it a ways down here, and you'll see why in a minute. And now I have a frame that I know is the correct width. Now if I come in here, I have my just regular selection tool operating. If I come in here and hover over the image, I can double click and I get a second frame that's orange. This is the extent of the actual image, and you can see that because my frame is of such a size, it's not allowing the image to completely and totally display. If I want to fix that, I can have the image selected, right click, and I can come over here to the contextual menu that's called Fitting. And what I want to do is I want to fit my content to my frame proportionally. This means that it's not going to take the image out of whack in the X or Y dimension. So if I click on this, you can see that left to right, now my orange box is the same as my blue box. The orange box, the size of my image, is the same left to right as the size of the frame. This is good. This is what we wanted. This is the correct size. Now, if you'll notice, what happened though is my image is off to the left a little bit. So if I want to center that, I've got to, with my select button, select the frame, and I'm going to come over here to this little item over here, and I'm going to select right in the middle, my reference point. And if you look, you can see it gives you where the middle of that frame is in the X direction and in the Y direction. If you remember, the size of the postcard was 4 inches. So if I want this reference point to be right in the middle, in other words, in the X or left to right dimension, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to change that reference point of the frame from 1.85 inches to 2 inches. Hit return and watch the frame jump to the right. Now I can be assured this is exactly in the middle, and I can be assured it's exactly the correct size. Just click off here. Let's go ahead and go on to placing our copy. The copy is going to happen in 2 different ways. The first way is a lot like we brought this image in. We're going to place a frame and then place the copy file or XREF it inside that frame. So let's make another frame. Select the frame tool, come over here, click and drag a nice big rectangle, and here's the X again. Now remember, the idea is that when we want to place a file into our layout, we hit Control plus D on the keyboard and it brings up our dialog box here where we can pick a file. Here's my convention copy file that has a lot of the pre-written text in it. If I select this, I can say Open, and the text comes into my frame. Now this is not exactly the way we want the text to look, but we'll take a look at formatting our text in the next video. The last thing we want to do is we want to insert the large headline text, and to do that we'll use the Type tool. As a reference, what we're going to be putting in here is science plus art equals architecture with the period. Let's go back to our InDesign workspace and do that. The Type tool over here is not extremely complicated to use, but the first thing we need to do is we need to make a bit of a box to put our type into. So if we click and drag, we can make a box, and you can see the cursor starts blinking here. I'm just going to type in all caps, architecture, nope, science plus art equals, and then I'm just going to come over here and click off of that, and then I'm going to come down here. I'm going to make Type tool is still selected, make another box, and I'm going to type the word architecture with a period. In the next video, we'll look at formatting all of this text and getting everything layered correctly to make the final document.